Customers tend to remember their experience when working with your brand. Today we're going to find out why you should be more focused on your brand's reputation than marketing. Find out all the details coming up next. I'm Eric Mitchell, and this is To The Point. Today's show is pretty awesome. I'm excited for our guest. To me, he is a great marketing icon. I've learned a lot from this man. When I had the honor and privilege of doing my day job, I got to meet our guest. So our guest today is Mike Birt. Mike is the former Chief Marketing Officer for Gruntstyle, one of the largest veteran-owned brands in the nation. This company literally in its heyday was seen from everywhere from the UFC to NFL, to NASCAR. In fact, they had commercials that were made and slated to air in the Super Bowl. Mike is the driving force behind there. Their events are second to none. So let's get to the point with today's guest, Mr. Mike Birt. And we're here with, I'm a big fan. I've met our guest a few years ago working for probably one of the best veteran apparel companies out there. In fact, it was one of the fastest growing brands that I was actually around, period, at the time. So I'm going to welcome to the guest the former Chief Marketing Officer, and I'm going to give him credit for this. He probably doesn't want to be given credit for this, but he was the brains behind everything you saw Gruntstyle years ago in the UFC, NASCAR, NFL, wherever you saw something going on and you were like, crap, there's a veteran brand there. Our guest was responsible for it. So, Mike, welcome to the show, bud.
Eric, thank you. That's a heck of an intro. I would certainly love to take all the credit in the world for everything, but had a great team, and I was part of just an outstanding team there. So, really awesome time. But
absolutely, and that is true about you. I think one of the big thing is and probably, of course, introing a show, you don't think to do it the way I did it, but it's true. You did have an incredible team. I mean, that's the amazing thing about what you guys built was not just you doing amazing things, what you did, but your team that was surrounded, that you could go forward on the mission and keep doing what you need to do and have people around that you trust to launch. I mean, you guys were dabbling with professional sports and then holding amazing events that thousands of people lined up to attend with amazing musical acts. And you guys are doing this, kind of going all the way, and then making really good videos. Like, come on, you guys did some crazy things on video that I don't think anybody could do again. I mean, daring Alex to do half the things you guys got him to do, I'm still shocked that, I don't know how the boys' guts didn't fall out through half the stuff.
The Alex videos were fun. Those were fun.
Yeah, so let's talk about building a brand. Obviously, you and your team helped build Gruntstyle to where it is basically today as a household name. People understand that veteran brand when it's out there. You see Gruntstyle shirts everywhere. I mean, I see them no matter where I go. They're still out there. You see them at NASCAR. You see them everywhere. So tell us what you learned about building that kind of brand. Because your background, interesting enough, is not as a chief marketing officer. You have a background in HR. And you're from the restaurant field, right? That's
in the restaurant business, yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, well, something people didn't know about me, though, either, is I used to be a TV critic. I was a member of the Academy, voted on the Emmys for several years. So I had learned a lot of the internet and SEO, social media, how to build a website, how to generate traffic, how do you create engaging content that gets people interested in, coming to see what you're doing. So I had been doing some of those things on obviously a much smaller scale. But when it came to Gruntstyle, and again, I've been gone there for a while, so everything they're doing now has nothing to do with me. Smart dudes there running a company. But in our time there, when we built that, it wasn't just about selling T-shirts, right? It's how do we create something that people connected to? And I think you were around at events and saw what that connection looked like. People wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be there just to be around it and the energy of it, and it's building a brand, right?
Yeah.
Something that people feel more about than this is just a t-shirt. I am repping this company that I'm wearing by wearing this t-shirt.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's true. I mean, the one thing that I do remember, a couple of the events that I attended, I mean, I forget what they were called, Grunt Fest? Yeah, Grunt Fest, right? Grunt Fest. Those were fascinating. I mean, just to see the community, especially the Colorado Springs one, right? Random place in the world to have one, not obviously in the backyard of Chicago like you guys had done before, kind of where they were all built out of, right? The first Grunt Fest were all built there. It was just amazing to see a brand that was, you're right, more than a t-shirt company, because you guys were dabbling in everything, but you were cutting edge with marketing. If you look at like videos and building your brand, what Jonah Berger always talks about, tip of tongue, top of mind, Grunt Style did that. And I know you were really key with that because you got the sporting world where people, I remember when I was working with you at Grunt Style doing PR, I remember people calling me going, I'm watching the UFC and the ring says Grunt Style on the back, or I'm watching NASCAR and I see the Grunt Style logo. This is crazy. This is like, people seem to think that like it was built in a garage, but clearly Grunt Style was not built in a garage. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about Grunt Style because I think your mind is amazing when it comes to what we're dealing with nowadays in the era of COVID-19 and everything else. On our Monday show, we talked about, with George Bryant, we talked about brand reputation, which is interesting. We're talking about Grunt Style, talking about brand reputation. How does a brand go out, and you could use whatever experience you want, but how does a brand go out? Where should they get a start when they're like focusing on their brand reputation? Like, how do they make sure it stays on the up and up instead of being kind of down here in the weeds where a lot of brands seem to live?
Well, look, you build a brand reputation by whatever it is that you're doing. Be good at it, be genuine, and be honest with people. So if you're selling a product to customers, or if you're selling a service, be the best that you can be at that and be honest. Don't, especially in marketing, you always hear people talk about how much they hate marketing because they think that our job is to trick people into, buying a product or doing something, where to me, I think that that's the furthest thing that from what we're trying to do. I don't want to trick anyone ever. I will tell you exactly who we are and what it is that we offer and what we can do for you. If you like it, great. I hope that we can develop a business relationship together. If you don't, that's great too. There's other good companies out there that I'm sure you would have a better fit with than you do with us. You build your reputation one customer at a time, one purchaser at a time, one client at a time. What do you do with those people? And what do they think of you after your engagement or your interaction with them? How did you manage that? And did you deliver on your promise to them? Your brand makes a promise. Every brand has a brand promise of, this is our product or service, and this is what we do. Do you live up to it or do you not? So your reputation starts there. Be excellent, provide excellent service, be quick to admit when you're wrong, correct your mistakes, and keep moving forward and be legit with people. People will smell a fraud a mile away.
That's funny that you say that. I just watched a video before we started taping that was of a rally that's taking place later today in Arizona that two guys claim that they found that they use this purifier. It cures COVID-19 in 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I mean, so there's a technique, right? It's kind of a clickbaity thing where they're going to be like, hey, I'm getting 1 million views on this video.
Yeah.
So they're going to get a spike, right? Because that used to be the thing that we used to try to do, especially in an e-commerce brand. Yeah. How can I get as much traffic to land on my website as possible in the hopes that 3% convert, right? Mm-hmm. Our conversion at Grunt Style was 5% when I was there. So that's fantastic, right? That's really good. How do you get people to land on your website? But then if you trick them to get there, they're going to be mad and they're not going to come back. They may have landed there once. That's the only time you're ever going to get it. And if you want to see those 1 million impressions again, it's going to be a new 1 million people you're going to have to now get in front of. And you're going to have to be constantly regenerating your audience and going out and finding a million new suckers to fall for whatever your trick was.
Yeah.
Rather than acquiring a customer and creating a lifetime bond with them where they're going to be back as a repeat purchaser. They're going to be out on the internet singing your praises and be, a brand influencer for you, and then they're going to be back to make repurchases, and where your acquisition cost for theirs way down now because I've already acquired them. I don't need to keep remarketing at them. They're coming back to purchase because they love me already.
Yeah. So let me ask you that. So customer service, right? Customers always remember you for, their experience, like you talked to, the folks that come back around. So how does a brand recover from maybe a bad customer experience? Because as we both know, if a customer has a bad experience, they seem to go tell the world. They don't go tell everybody they had a good experience, but they'll tell everybody and their mom on social media they had a horrible experience. How does a brand recover from something like that?
They sure will. I'll tell you. Back in my old restaurant days before the internet really took off. In the old days, really before the internet took off, we would know this in the restaurant business that an unhappy customer, would tell up to 10 people and a happy is only telling 2. The same rules still apply today, but there's so many more outlets and they get in front of so many more people, where an unhappy customer can get on Twitter and blast it out to, their 1,000 followers. They can put up a Facebook message on their own page and then come to your page and do it again. They can go to YouTube. They can hit you on Yelp. I mean, there's so many places for an angry customer to go out, right? Mm-hmm. Number one, and this is from, this is a Dan Alaric thing too at Grunstyle. You can't hide from it. And we never did. You never can hide from the bad. You're going to have bad customer experiences. We had tens of thousands of purchases in a month, even at 99% accuracy, even at 99.9% accuracy, you are going to screw up. Every business will. We're all human, right? People don't expect you to be perfect. You maintain your brand image by recognizing that we have screwed up for this person. Let's get in touch with them, own the mistake, and don't make excuses. It wasn't somebody else's fault. It wasn't, something else happening. This is one of those hard things. When I was doing consulting, there's a brand that's out there that you guys would know. I won't mention their names. We completely screwed up stuff for them, my consulting company. I still don't think they'll talk to me now, but, I never really explained to them what happened because I don't want to blame anyone. It's just like, hey, look, it's our company. We messed this up. You have to own it. Mm-hmm. Be honest with people. Customers don't expect perfection, right? That's why every company has a customer service department. If you didn't care, why do you have it? So own it and then win them back. We would know, and I know this now, it's been true forever. Some of your most raving fans of any business, no matter what you are, what kind of business you do, you create raving fans by taking somebody who's had a bad experience and turning that around. They're way more impressed than somebody who came to your website, ordered your product, you delivered it in 2 days. That's a base expectation now. But now, like, hey, you guys sent me the wrong thing, but the company reached out to me directly, and then this is what they did for me. Look at how they recovered and they made up for it. These guys are awesome. I totally didn't expect that. You can create raving fans much better. A negative customer experience is really a great opportunity for you to show people what your brand is all about.
Yeah. I think big brands have proven that. I mean, if you think of a brand like Nike, I always bring them up into the party because if you look at Nike has survived so many crazy things. I mean, especially if you look at Colin Kaepernick, they didn't get hurt by that. And people are like, they're done. I mean, everybody and their mom was burning Nikes in the street. And Nike was like, and now they look even smarter because now the current situation, climate we're in, Kaepernick is practically a folk hero now to so many. And now it's coming out where the players are coming out and everybody's, talking about their stance, in which we're not going to go political at all here. I'm just saying with Nike's brand reputation, they recovered fine by it. You never really saw them take that hit, but Nike's always traditionally been that way, where a lot of brands, they falter on that. And, it's
you've got to know your audience too, right? And you'll make that calculation, and maybe I'll be a little more cynical about some of these brands with what's happening, in current events today. Are all these brands being legitimate with their statements? Maybe, I don't know. I tend to think in marketing that people will judge you by your actions more than what your words are. So putting out a statement of support of this group or that group means much less than actually doing something. And if you can show your company has actually taken action, but Nike knows their customers, right? And they know how to message their fan base, Yeah. And yeah, they made a calculation that they would probably lose X amount of people for coming out and taking this stand. But as a big company, they probably made that calculation and thought it's worth it for us to take this stand. Yeah. And companies have to do that. It's a tough time right now, right? How does any business handle the politics of the day? Because it seems like everybody gets pulled into it, no matter what your brand is. You could be the least political brand of anything, and your employees are probably pulling you into and saying, what are you doing about this right now? So everybody better be thinking about it if you haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, it's true. And then you can go on social media. So let's talk about that, because I love your comments on LinkedIn. And you recently talked about one about people who just post content over and over again on LinkedIn, right? These constant over and over and over and over. It's basically the same content, just rewritten, or you put some fancy quote that goes next to your head and you've taken some fancy headshot. I mean, how do we get these? You've worked with a lot of influencers, obviously, in your days at Gruntfile, that's where you worked. Gruntfile or Grunt Style is the name we're going with. When you were there, you worked with some amazing influencers. You guys had touches with athletes, bands. I mean, you know what a real influencer is and what they can do. And then these charlatan fly-by-night folks that are sudden experts. And we've, unfortunately, the last, 12 weeks on LinkedIn seems to be an eternity since COVID-19. Everybody's an expert now on everything. We see it. So how do you get through that? I mean, obviously, you've seen a lot of things. So how do you sort through who to listen to and who not to? It's got to be hard. You probably get a lot of connection requests. How do you sort through who to follow, who to listen to, who to kind of do in your everyday, and who should brands listen to? It's hard.
It's tough, and I'll tell you, especially so, brands who want to get into influencer marketing and dealing with that, the old metric used to just be to look at somebody's audience and say, well, they have X number of followers, so I think they would be great. But, a lesson I learned pretty quickly about influencers is it's not necessarily even their audience size. It's how engaged are they with their audience. And that's the same thing watching anyone. Who are you going to follow on LinkedIn or anything, a brand? Who do you watch? Who do you listen to? Who do you get advice from? I'm looking for just, again, genuine people who don't do the, keep the chin up platitude stuff, that you see so many of the famous, I don't want to name any of these guys, but, all of the big LinkedIn famous people that have the millions of followers who just say the same things over and over and over without really saying anything. There's somebody that I just saw right before we started this interview who posted, an article that they did about 10 things to look for in marketing trends in 2020. And I thought it was really insightful. And it's a guy who's not famous at all. And if you said his name on this podcast, nobody would know who he is. He doesn't have 25 million followers, but it was a really insightful article that I thought was, very knowledgeable. There's a ton of people out there who know what they're doing and talking about. And just because they don't have a massive following, they're discounted or ignored. And, people make that mistake. I've seen it. I've been part of it. When you're famous, everyone wants to hear from you. When you're not, you're now all of a sudden, you might be the same person, but people think you don't know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, that is very true. So let me ask you why we're on this topic. When you see these folks that are out there writing, I talked about this it seems so long ago, early February, right after Kobe passed, because there was all these articles. It seemed to, anytime someone dies or passes on, there's always some sort of marketing article, which is probably why marketers are hated so much. There's always some article where they relate someone's death to PR or marketing or how you could do better or things Kobe did. And it's like, to me as a marketer, it drives me insane. Like, oh my, are you seriously using someone's death for clickbait? What's your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, in your time when you were at Grunt Style, I didn't see you guys ever do that. But You see other brands on LinkedIn, you see it on Instagram. People are really just, they love pumping out articles, clickbait to get people. And you talk about a smaller writer who's putting out quality content. I think the struggle is getting that guy's name to the top of the bubble, and these people who are using and abusing their contributor status at these huge outlets, it seems to be an issue. What's your thoughts on that?
It's tough. The world I'm in now, so I'm with a company that is much smaller, and growing quickly, has a feel that I haven't felt in a long time about this growth, right? But our social media, they hadn't done it, so it's new for them. So I am way back. I'm in the way back machine. I just got my Facebook page to over 1,000 followers. 1,000, right? I used to have 2 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say
1,000, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing the same types of stuff. You're putting out content, but do you jump on content? Businesses will make that mistake, especially like on a Kobe or the news, big news of the day. Everyone wants to jump on that because that's the trend. Does it make sense for your brand? My brand is healthcare right now. I work for a company named Complete Care. They're based in Central Florida. Would it make sense? Like, why would anyone care what Complete Care has to say about the death of Kobe Bryant?
Yeah.
We have to do content that matters to our audience, that is somewhat related to what it is that we do. I refer to this as if you look at the target, right? The bullseye. So you have the bullseye and then the rings that are going out. Your bullseye content is directly brand related. So we do injury care. If bullseye content for us would be an article directly about injury care. Something else related is, the next ring out. And then you keep going out in rings that are connected, but it's not on the bullseye, but you got to be related. Like my company, I can't write an article about camping, and tell you that I'm an expert on camping, because nobody's going to believe that. Like, you're a healthcare company. That doesn't make any sense, So you just have to be careful about the kind of content you do. You don't do content just to do it. Make it make sense, make it speak to your audience, and make it tell people about your brand and your values and your value proposition.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this one, because this one's always one that I think I've asked you this in person before. Brands that love to hit that boost button on Facebook, right? Everybody wants to get the views. Obviously, you work for a very gigantic brand, over 2 million followers. If you even know who Grunt Style is, you've looked them up on social and like, holy crap, they have reach. So what is your thoughts on this? Everybody thinks that they could do the same thing. In fact, I remember hearing back in the day, people are like, oh, I'll just do what? Insert brand name. I'll do the same thing. There's a drastic difference from 2 million followers to 100 if you're going to go boost a post.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Yeah. I used to have a 7-figure a month budget for marketing, so I do miss those days. That was something great. Easy to be a genius when you have that kind of a budget. Right now, I have hundreds of dollars. But it's if you're at that size, it's not. People want to go from today to tomorrow to being the biggest thing that's out there. And that happened at Grunt Style, and I always talk about this now, even, through those years. You have to do the same things over and over and over for a long time, and then all of a sudden you're an overnight success, right? People thought Grunt Style came out of nowhere. It didn't. It took years of toiling in anonymity and behind several other good companies, that had all the spotlight. If you're a brand that's out there right now and you're just starting, you don't have a huge amount of reach, anything that you're doing is really going to have a big impact. If you only have 100 followers, if you pick up 10 followers in the next week, you just grew your fan base by 10%. That's a huge move of the needle. You grow 10%, a little bit. In a year, you'll look back and see, man, what a huge difference I've made. So you have to be incremental. You make those small changes and you just keep doing it. You can't compare yourself. If you're a brand new company, you can't compare yourself to Coca-Cola and say, man, why can't I run, all the TV spots that they have across all the network that those guys are doing? It takes time to get there.
Yeah. I think
Unless
that's what's funny, right? Is everybody sees these big guys and admires to want to be them, but you truly can't get there overnight. There isn't an overnight success button. You could take years. I always say I'm a 6 years success story, because it was, 6 years overnight success is where we took our brand LifeLit Media to where it is today. I mean, it's hard because you want to be able, and the moment you get a little bit more budget, you throw it towards it, and it makes a difference. But you have to crawl before you can walk. I mean, I think that's where a lot of people, they just want to skip that. We have this get-rich-quick scheme in our world.
Everybody wants and it's hard. It feels like you're toiling and you're not seeing any changes for a while. And if you have a boss, like, I'm not the CMO at where I'm at right now, right? So I have a boss and they want to know, I have to generate impressions and show growth and how's my web traffic and those numbers. You want to see things changing and you want to see it quickly. But look, honestly, in the marketing world, if you take the shortcuts, or there's agencies out there who tell you they can get you there quickly, they're not doing it honestly. And I go back again to your brand and a reputation. You might be able to cheat or trick your way into those million impressions in a month, but people will remember you for that and not come back. They won't trust you. You're going to get a clickbait type of a reputation, and that's not long-term sustainable growth. You will not continue to grow that way. And you've seen that. Look at the old clickbait media companies. They're all gone. Yep. All those guys are gone.
They all are. It's a scary world we live in. And marketing has changed. I mean, if you remember, just look at the way even ads have changed on Facebook. There's so many regulations. I mean, you probably know. I always laugh and I start chuckling because I remember sitting in meetings with you and talking, just watching what you guys did at Grunt Style with, being able, the information you could pull from ads back in the day that you can't do now behind the scenes. I mean, could you imagine if you had to play by the new rules?
I don't think that Grunt Style would have been possible today, and we know that. We knew that then because the rules were changing on us as we were growing too. There's another guy that's out there. If you remember Dan Caddy, I think he's still out there doing it. ASM DSS, awesome stuff my drill sergeant says. That guy, Dan Caddy, is one of the absolute best social media people I have ever seen. He is an absolute genius at it. He's one of the best I've ever seen. And I learned a lot from that guy. But some of those tricks that he used to do, you remember one he did? There's a famous one that he did that, man, it made the news even. He put out an article from his website about, 10 people shot in Boston. And this was during Second Amendment, fighting that was going on, right? So he just put that out. He put out that headline, and people, the internet blew up on this thing. And it was an article about the Boston Massacre from, colonial times. It was just an old school genius of a clickbait headline that just melted down the website, because that was when he was with us. And he was with Grunt Style, and we were making and selling his product, but he did his own marketing. But oh my gosh, you can't do that today. You could not do that. Yeah. It's really authenticity, honesty. You can't go for those clickbait. If you're trying to chase impressions, and I think marketing people make that mistake. They're chasing impressions and not sales. Yeah. You cannot pay a paycheck with impressions. Yeah. So you could have somebody have a marketing guy tell you how many impressions they generated for you that month. I'm like, okay, well, what did it equal in revenue? And if it doesn't turn into revenue, then it doesn't matter how many people visited you, so you really have to be careful. Yeah. Be authentic, and you draw the right people that are a fit for your brand and what you're doing.
I love that. That's perfect. So we'll end it there because that was perfect. You got to go out with a mic drop I know you're a Chicago guy, so I'll give you the MJ. You got to go out like MJ with the there you go. Yeah. You got to get the shove off.
I'm old enough for MJ too, so.
So am I. It's good to have a guest that's old enough to remember MJ. So before you go, let's just ask, did you watch Last Dance? Did you watch?
I did.
What'd you think?
So good. The memories. And it's funny, because we grew up during that time, and I'm from the western suburbs where all of those guys are from. So going through high school and that, girls in my high school used to babysit for those guys. I wasn't a caddy, but a couple of my friends caddied for Jordan and that. But you forget, I had already been in the Army when they won the first one. And I kept thinking about, you look back at that first title and you're thinking late 80s, maybe early 90s. And you're like, oh my gosh, I was already in the military at that time. It was just so good. Just good memories,
That is the funny thing about watching it. It's funny you bring up the military, because I was in high school for the first one, and then when they started winning, I remember where I was sitting when I was watching. I mean, especially the switch up when he went from right to left on the Lakers, one of the best layups I've ever seen in my life. I mean, and he did it just no biggie, he was just gonna do it. So it was fun watching. I just wanted to make sure, because I know you're a Chicago guy.
It was so fun. Dude. Great memories in the city. It just brought back a ton of memories. Everyone talking on my Facebook about it. So much fun. It was awesome.
We need sports back. I can tell you that I'm missing sports. We definitely need sports to return.
I hope so.
But I know you're a Cubby guy, and I'm a Yankee guy, and from what I'm hearing, we're not going to have baseball at all this season. Those two sides, they didn't even agree again today.
It doesn't look like it.
No. Turn down the 60-game season now.
I'll tell you, the funny thing about both of those sides is, I don't know if those guys have noticed, but there hasn't been baseball yet, and the world hasn't ended.
Nope.
Those are the guys, baseball, and I grew up as a baseball player. I was good, love it, right? My whole life. They're the ones with the shakiest future for a fan base, because they're not getting younger fans to follow the game, right? They need to be doing more than anything to get people involved in the game, and they're doing this.
Yeah.
You guys want to. Apparently, they want to blow it up. I guess so.
I know what I had for you. I wanted to bring this one up because I know we've talked about it in person. So brands, and this is interesting because before it didn't matter. I think we were talking during an election year. So here's one for you, and this will be your final question for the day. Lucky you.
Sure.
What do you say to brands that are dipping their toe in the pool when it comes to what's going on in the world today? We have the Black Lives Matter movement, Confederate flag, obviously COVID-19, and then you dabble in what you try to ignore, but the presidential election of 2020 is constantly anywhere. If you're on social media, especially Twitter, you're very familiar with what's going on. Maybe if you're lucky, your Facebook doesn't look like it, but even LinkedIn's starting to turn into a political mess. People always adding their opinion. What do you say to brands about where they should dip their and I'm not saying mostly with the election, because I know a lot of brands, even our brand, we try to stay away from it, and I advise brands to stay away from politics. But Black Lives Matter and COVID-19, two of the biggest issues for 2020. Black Lives Matter obviously goes way back beyond just this year, clearly. But how do brands dip their toe in that pool to cover it? Because you can't ignore it, right? It has to be mentioned. It's not one of those things where you're just like, it's hard because you've had so many. So what's your thoughts on that with everything going on?
Well, first on the COVID-19, right? So I think you saw pretty quickly. Here's a phrase that, or phrases, unprecedented times. We're all in this together. Difficult challenges. All of the brands seem to grasp onto three different types of statements, and it really turned into something completely disingenuous, didn't it? So everybody's putting out a COVID-19 statement. You see a COVID-19 statement from a concrete manufacturer on LinkedIn. Okay, I get it. Thank you. But, I don't know. Did you need to? I guess everyone felt like they needed to.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter is really difficult. I don't know. I would generally, my recommendation also when I've, been a CMO and when I've done consulting, I tell brands to stay away from politics too, because your brand is probably not political at all, unless you have some sort of a connection that makes sense for you to be talking about it. Why, if you are a food manufacturer, are you telling me what your political opinions are? Because I don't really care. I just care if your food's good, right? This one was a little bit different just because, it's a nationwide impact. And now with younger employees in the workforce, your employees were dragging companies into it, So you probably had to say something. And I don't know. I'll tell you, my company, we didn't, because we're healthcare. We work in a healthcare company. Not that we don't support it, but that's where I went back before to not making statements. You actually have to do the things. So, we take care of our community and everybody that comes in. Wow. Honestly, man, it's a tough question. I've seen companies do it really wrong.
Yeah.
Where everyone tries to turn everything into some sort of a way to drive traffic to the website for conversion, right? The old thing we used to do was, especially in clothing world, here's whatever this tragedy is. I've got a shirt for you. If you buy this shirt, we'll donate money to this cause, right?
Yeah.
And the goal of that was, people thought we used to profit on those shirts. We never did, right? But the goal of that was, because I'm getting you to the website, I got your email address, I can probably remarket to you, and if you're buying this one, you'll probably buy another one, right? So that's where I would tell companies to make a message about these things that are happening as long as you're genuine. And how do you do that? How does a company do that? Does it feel genuine?
Yeah.
Look at some of these companies that are out there, and I don't know, it feels like you're just doing it to do it. And I don't know. I think the best thing, if you can't do it the right way, is probably to not do anything, but make sure that your company is behaving ethically and just actually try this. Don't be bad people in general. Try to do the right thing.
Solid advice. I like that. Just don't be shitty.
It's not that hard to
No.
not be a bad person.
It's not.
Aye. Do the right things in business. And then you don't have to put out fake statements on,
Yeah.
we support this stuff. Because when you put that out, did you not support it before?
Yeah.
Are you only on board now?
Yeah.
Why now? Where were you before? What have you done in the past? What's been your charity work? Do you have any charity work to show?
Right.
I mean, you just invite all kinds of issues for you unless you've been doing the right things all along. And if you've been doing the right things all along, your fans will know that.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that,
If you have to come out and tell people, I think you've got a problem.
Yeah. If you have to go tell, you're so right. I love that you brought that up because I think it's one of the things I see so many brands. It's like, oh, we support, we care. It's like, did you not before? So now it's an issue. Now you're fired up. You weren't fired up before. Like, you're cool with it. I just see so many hypocritical brands that don't even need to dip their toe in the pool. They just need to leave it alone. Like you said, the cement company. But you're right. When COVID-19 came out, and even with Black Lives Matter, there's brands that are dipping their toe in the pool that they've never said anything on any stance. And it's like, okay, I get you want to do it. Sometimes you just don't need to because no one's looking for no one's like going, Doug's Concrete Company. I wonder how they feel about COVID-19. No, I don't. I'm not losing sleep over it.
Any of this. I mean, you've never said it before. Why are you now?
Exactly.
And how are you doing it and who's doing it? And why is marketing? Like, do you want me? I mean, I'm a marketing guy. I'm here to put out positive messages about the brand and, sell the things that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Is it the right thing? And even if I've done PR, and I've done PR too, right? Mm-hmm. Is that right? Is that a PR statement? All of it feels wrong, doesn't it? That it's coming from these brands.
It feels forced. I mean, that's why I asked you because, forcing a message is horrible for your brand because it just sticks out, and people, especially in today's day and age, people remember what you say and they go look it up, and all of a sudden they're talking about you. You see brands talked about all the times making dumb decisions, putting it out there, and they just look weird, and now they're just like real. I mean, again, it goes back to the video that I'll gladly play in here for anybody who wants to watch. This video of these two yahoos that are going to a rally, and they are claiming, we got people who go to our congregation, and they built this filtration system that literally knocks COVID-19 out of the air in 10 minutes. They're clearly doing that for clickbait. I mean, there's no way people are watching that and taking it serious. I mean
there's been snake oil salesmen and
our whole life
since the beginning of sales. So those people will
people
never go away. I mean, it's
everything.
unfortunate. If you're a brand that really cares, let your employees talk. Don't punish your employees for talking. Don't be afraid about what your employees have to say. Your employees are going to be much more genuine than I am. Yeah. I'm a 47-year-old white dude. What am I going to say that's genuine about any of what these issues are, right? How the heck do I know?
Yeah.
Let your employees talk. Let them be more open. Brands should be less afraid of the things that their employees are doing and saying on social media. You know, sometimes they're inappropriate.
That's an interesting topic. The whole let your employees talk. I know that there's, Glassdoor and all those things that are out there, and so many employers. I mean, and I've been around, especially coming from the Silicon Valley, where brands will go and they'll have their, I always say their do-gooders go on there and put opposite messages whenever there's negative criticism. And I don't think, I know good companies that I've worked for, great companies that I've worked for, and I go on Glassdoor and somebody is upset and I'm just like, but they never once asked us to go fill out or go be a do-gooder and fill something out. You know what? There is no perfect business. I don't think anybody's like, every business is great. Everybody knows that you're going to run into a bad experience. There's bad things that happen. No business is perfect. So it's great that you brought that up because that's a huge issue. I mean, a lot of brands do it now too.
You can't be afraid and you can't outshoot for perfection. Yeah. Know you're not going to be perfect and then own it when you're not, because you're not going to be. Yeah. And if you drive for it, you'll all go crazy.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's always great to be able to pick your mind. I wish it was in person like we did before, because I know how much you love your fruity drinks. I remember how much you got made fun of for drinking your
good.
I got a good memory.
I'm glad that could come out. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm here for you for these little Mike things that no one knows. Mike likes fruity drinks. There you go. There you go. There's your tidbit. You take away. All the other great information he left us, take that way. No, just take all the other information, because truly you did build an amazing brand. You and your team. Those folks were truly. You had a truly amazing team. I have to tell you, it was a pleasure being around them.
It really did.
Watching them.
Lightning in a bottle, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Lightning in a bottle.
Truly amazing. You guys crushed it. It was like Jordan Duncan from the foul line watching you guys. Literally, and the way you guys celebrated, it was great to see. I just know from being there in the moment, and I have chills from goosebumps talking about it, but I remember just watching your guys' team after Grunt Fest in Colorado Springs. To me, watching you talk to your team and the way that you guys were like, when it was all over, when everybody was leaving, and what was that band that was there? They had like one hit. I don't even remember the band's name.
Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah.
Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, that's who it was. But watching, your team, that was what was amazing, was everybody came together. And so I want to thank you for joining us. I'd love to have you back and kind of dive into more marketing. It's fun to pick your brain and get out what you've done. Again, you've worked with a lot of brands. I'd like to have you back at least once a month, try to get you to commit to at least once a month having you on. So our folks could do some Q&A, ask you questions. So real fast, what is a good way for folks, even for your brand that you're working with now? Hey, more likes on your Facebook would sure be good. So let's do some organic stuff here. So how should folks get a hold of you, or if they want to check out what your brand that you're doing and everything there, how do they find out more?
You can find me on LinkedIn primarily, is where I spend most of my time these days on social. Mike Birt. I think my LinkedIn is Michael Birt, actually, but Birt. You can find me there. My brand is Complete Care, and we're in Orlando, Florida, the Central Florida area, from down by Tampa up almost to Jacksonville now. And we're looking in the next couple of years, we'll be expanding out to more states. A lot of growth. Has a very growth-oriented future here, something I love about this brand. Very young. Our average age in the company is 26. So I am by far one of the oldest people in this company. I'm one of the three oldest folks in this company here. So it's a great company doing good work. I moved from Chicago to Orlando for this opportunity, just because it was interesting. It's a marketing challenge. If people work in marketing, I think marketing as an industry is one of the biggest gatekeeping groups that there is. marketing, like recruiters want people to have, this experience, this degree, that degree. And I think as an industry, none of it's needed. Like we built Grunt Style, there was no marketing degrees in that marketing department. We had people that came out of production who had been printing T-shirts who started working in marketing. If you know how to talk, you can talk to people, you know how to create a message, you can do marketing. Okay. So that was one of these challenges where I'm like, well, I did a consumer products brand. What's healthcare like? Because I have a process and I have a way that I did things that I know worked in one way, and it worked when I did consulting. I'm like, well, will it work here? So I wanted this challenge to see, can what I do work? And so far, I've only been here for a little bit of time, but so far it's working. So would love to have people check us out. Complete Care. Complete-care.com is our website. Sweet. If you wanted to check it out. So
we'll send everybody there. We'll put it in there.
I love talking marketing.
And
branding,
we'll put
partnership.
We'll put your LinkedIn in our YouTube below so people can find you there and connect with you on LinkedIn. Make sure you do a proper LinkedIn connection and tell Mike where you saw him. Don't be like, hey, just click. Don't be lazy. Actually say you watched him on the show. That way he'll accept it and not think you want to sell him anything or leads. Everybody wants to sell leads on LinkedIn now. So I want to thank you, Mike, for joining us, and hopefully you have a good week.
Thank you, Eric, for having me here. I really appreciate it, man.
Well, heck yeah, bud. We'll talk to you real soon.
It's been a pleasure to be on, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey, this has been a great show today. Excited and want to thank Mike Birt for joining us today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We have the fabulous Lisa Bodenberg, and of course, back for her millionaire mindset, Cynthia Frunze is joining us. We're excited to have her back. We're going to jump into the weeds, learn a couple tips and tricks to help you actually save money during this pandemic. And of course, Lisa will be joining us, an outstanding United States Marine. It's going to tell you get that Marine Corps mindset and how you can work on your physical fitness and your mind at the same time. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss our Women Wednesday. So again, thank you for tuning in today to The Point Tuesday. We're so excited to have you guys here. On behalf of the entire team here at To The Point, we'd like to thank you. As always, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be smart, be strong, and God bless America. Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point. Sit and enjoy. This is Eric Mitchell. He the host of the show. Get to the point. He is the voice. We needed this, something more. This is a daily show that's known for politics and the sports. Ain't no limit to whoever you may see at this point. To celebrities, every key's beast in the joint. As a veteran, put them at ease, then anoint. Every conversation can never be disappointed. Whether tragic or it's happy.